Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am YORI FOLARIN. Actually, it's all about the aftermath of the election. The president is in place. He has hit the ground running, as everybody said would be the case. And but now there's an opportunity to sort of look back. We're inviting back in one of our friends. I'm talking about Mr. Sani Adenuga. Mr. Sani Adenuga is of the Boot Party, and he was the presidential candidate of that party in the 2023 presidential election. Well, as it happened, it didn't quite work out the way Boot Party wanted. But nevertheless, you took part in the exercise. In fact, one could go ahead and say that, you know, of all the candidates that you fielded, this didn't appear to be the year.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it's not, we're not really very disappointed, if I can put it that way. And the reason why I would say that is this. I'm personally of the opinion that Nigerians should be able to vote and exercise their right. Irrespective of what is being said in some quarters, that's the feeling we get. And you may recall in one of those times I've been here, and people were talking about opinions and opinion polls. And I told you that when the results comes out, people are going to see for themselves and decide the credibility of some of these opinion polls. Because what we see as a political party is actually different from sometimes some of the things being seen on social media.
Okay.
But that said, as a political party, we've made very good progress into the political landscape. What we've done, clearly, is that you can be in politics in Nigeria and decide not to be tainted.
Okay.
And that's what we've made clear.
Okay.
Anybody can go to INEC, you can go to all the political bigwigs in Nigeria. They're going to tell you about us. And we've seen some people even in INEC and say, this is the model of political party. The fact that we've not seen success now, of course, just like game of football, it's usually about, you have to win. Nobody remembers that you dribble 10 times or you had 1 million possession. It doesn't matter. In one of those times, Mourinho said you can even take the ball away if you like. All he cares, he wants to win. And it sometimes seems like that also, that's what politics is. But of course, if you borrow leaf from the current President Tinubu, you know, he's been at it for a very long time. And this resonates very well with what we've been saying. That it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Indeed. And
we felt we've done credibly well in the election, even though we don't have all the outcomes that we would have wanted. Yeah. So that's just my view on that.
And well, your party towards the election, towards the governorship and presidential were held at the same time, right?
Yeah.
No.
About 3 weeks.
Yeah, about 3 weeks. You collapsed your structure. You collapsed your structures into a Labour Party. Was that factual or not?
It's totally not true.
But that was reported.
Well, I will excuse most that this happened on social media, and we made a press release and refuted this very strongly. That it was false. At no point did the National Working Committee of the Boot Party sat down with anybody in Labour Party to talk about wage margin. And I'm going to say this here. And what is very sad is this. Just about a few days before that purported announcement about a merger, my national secretary called me and said, Oga, the people of Jagaban are waiting for us. And I said, well, you know, based on the data we have here, this election can only go one way. And this election we're talking of election of national magnitude. We know at this point we cannot win. And data we're seeing here, I told her straight away, the President Jagaban does not need us, and we don't want to be used for political purpose.
At the time, it was the President to be.
To be. I said to her that, look, forget APC. They will just want to use us for politics. And it was a decision. And I always say this, during the conference we had, I said, look, it was our decision. We met, we had a lot of meetings with people who even, very honest, they wanted to buy the Boot Party.
Really?
1.5 years before the election.
There you go.
And they were clear. They said, look, we want to buy you. And we said to them, no.
It can't be done.
No, it's not the way we want it. So it was our choice to grow organically. The fact that as of today, we've not been able to put a governor in place, we've not been able to put a president in place.
Or a senator.
Or a senator. Nigeria is a going concern and will continue to emerge. People should not be too worried about what's happening.
Okay, so this doesn't send you out of the, out of the orbit of politics.
No,
you're there. You said it's not a sprint.
No, it's not a sprint. It doesn't send us out. I know people have that fear. I'll be very honest, and I always tell people, don't ask me questions if you can't process the truth, because I don't know how to lie. That's just one thing about me. Yeah. So if people say, oh, INEC is going to deregister political party, and I said to them, look, INEC has power to deregister political party. But I said to someone, if you are INEC chairman at this point in time, is that what will be in your mind? There are quite a lot going on in the country, and almost every political party, they've done very well. People have rights to exercise their views, but it's just that this right needs to be put in such a way that we know the fabric of our country. It could be fragile. It's very easy for people who are not interested, that is leaders who are not interested in the people itself, to exploit this fourth line of fault. And as a result, they start putting one tribe against the other. I like to say this. People tell me, in Lagos, that. I say, come on, guys. There is no Yoruba here that hates Igbo. There is no Igbo that hates Yoruba. Instead, if anything, we can say, we Yoruba should blame ourselves for some of the things that happen. I'm sorry, that's my position. Because if some of our leaders strongly, out of probably, you say, envy, and hate the president-elect at that time, candidate at that time, because of envy, and these are heavyweights in our land. So I just think those around
there was a lot of intrigue going on at that time. They
just kind of follow that line. So nobody should see that the Igbo hate Yoruba. I find it difficult to agree, and I don't think it's even the other way. It goes the other way around. Instead, it's the politicians that create this type of very unfair environment for our people.
Since you had that mindset back, like when you were telling your person that, look, you know what, the APC and the president will be, they don't need us. Don't, as you put it, don't let them use us for politics. You were saying at the time, president to be. Does that then follow that you have extended your congratulations to the winner?
We are the first person. I was the first person to congratulate him. The information is there on Twitter. But because we are not one of the political parties that you see here, because we just want to play politics, that is it, and make necessary improvement, talk to the authorities where it matters. Like we were, just a few days ago, I was still at INEC and having some discussions with some of their leaders that, look, this is where we feel things go wrong. And I made it clear, technology is changing. Artificial intelligence is changing the way we live. A lot of Nigerians don't ask themselves. You go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook. How many people have been thoughtful to ask, okay, that viral, I go viral. What makes it to happen? These are codes that have been designed. They are called artificial intelligence. They decide what's going to happen. And there are people who engineer some of these things. And they can engineer you as well. So if that has been said, now as a political party, we just felt that we are conscious of this area of thought and what is happening in the world about using technology to kind of change people's mind and address. And also, clearly, there is a big digital gap among the ruling class and the young Nigerian out there. So, yeah, we extended our congratulations right from the first time. And you can see during the coalition when it was ongoing, you saw the position of our party officials. No, we're supporting INEC in this because INEC, I'm not going to speak for INEC. Yes, they have their flaws, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to this election, it's huge. By virtue of stakeholders, over 80 million registered voters, that's the biggest program you can have in the whole of Africa.
Indeed. And
they would have been preparing. They were preparing. We were close to them. We know how much they've done. And for anyone, irrespective of what, to want to destabilize the process, you can't call yourself a Democrat. If a democratic process is ongoing, it has not finished, and you are calling it to be boycotted. Yeah. And the power some people are asking of INEC, it could have been the same way. Let's say the agitators, they are the one who actually were leading. So what you are saying INEC could do, they could have used the same power to say, okay, oh, Mr. Atiku, you are winning. And they said, no, we don't want you to win. No, INEC cannot become a tribunal on the day of election. They are just supposed to organize election, and that's what I think they have done.
And you know, where this conversation has sort of gone, you actually led on to the other point that, in fact, is the big point of today, because your area of expertise is technology,
yeah.
you know, IT in particular.
Yeah.
And it's been said that, not that everybody will agree, because you know it's such a raw moment now in the minds of some, but it's been said that this was the best election Nigeria had ever had. As a technology person, and we're going to talk about technology, that statement that some people, that statement is ready to collapse some people because their viewpoint is different. Your comment on that whole issue of this was actually the best election we had.
I think it's the best election, and the technology has made tremendous contributions because, first and foremost, election is not just voting on the day of election.
One is not saying it was perfect.
Yeah.
That is not what
It
one is
can't
saying.
be perfect.
We can't be perfect. So that's not what we're saying. But that it was the best elections, that none has been perfect. And in the midst of all the imperfections, this was the best.
Yeah, in my own short lifetime, the elections I've participated was only from 1993 up to date. And if we excuse 1993 election, it was great to some extent, until there was the mandate was not delivered. Now, from 1999, clearly, I'm going to say from my little experience, this is about the best election. And there are a lot of factors that actually contribute to election being judged to be best. Yes, INEC chairman might have made some mistakes in comment like saying, oh, I'm going to make election, uploading of data, result real time. Now, and I need to share this with Nigerians. About a year, INEC presented to party leaders. I was in that meeting, the Beavers and IREF and all the rest. Now, I remember asking this particular question, that, okay, what happens in locations where there are no internet access? The answer that was given was clearly that, look, at that point in time, they're going to take the pictures of the result. And I'm not defending INEC chairman, but probably that was what he had in mind. But again, you're right, I said at the beginning that the digital divide, the digital gap that we have with young people who constitute bulk of our voters, someone who is not deep into technology will not understand that, oh, why is it possible for me to send a picture on Instagram and everybody is seeing it all over the world, and Mr. INEC is saying that's not possible. But one thing is this, that promise should not have been made because INEC does not control all the factors that will make that to happen. INEC is not NCC in Nigeria. They do not have power to decide what is the size of bandwidth or how many traffics are going to be going through our bandwidth at that time. And we remember the confiscation of Naira that happened to the point that if you now buy a Boli, you have to now send 500 Naira by electronic means. All this contributed to
stressing the whole internet system
at that point in time. But with hindsight, my advice to one of the directors in INEC is this. Look, foregoing, we think what should be happening, you do it in your legal practices. So you have INEC lawyers in place, but you still make counsel of external experts. You can do the same thing with technology. Before you make decisions, before you make even pronouncements, we should have technology experts who are going to help you. You know, it doesn't have to be Boot Party, it doesn't have to be Sunday Adenuga, but we have KPMG, Deloitte, all these guys. They're wonderful young people in Nigeria who are going to give deep thought about, look, you can't make this statement, this is what it means, this is the implications, because you can't blame the young man who thinks that you told me is real time, you are going to have the information. But what the gentleman was actually saying, based on the answer he gave to us at that meeting, was that, look, what I'm saying to you is that before they leave that polling unit on that day, they are going to take the picture. And that when they get to any location, there is internet. The picture that was taken will be uploaded. So we were not even thinking, in all fairness, none of us was even thinking we're going to have problem of internet access at that point in time. And clearly, we have over 175,000 polling units all over the country. What I did, seriously, when I voted, and there were a lot of complaints that the elections were rigged. The first thing I did was that, okay, I went on INEC website and I checked my polling unit. Was it the result that was announced at the polling unit that was there? And it was the result. And this is what we expect everybody to do. So INEC and its officials, I don't think they should be insulted or called names just simply because something that is not entirely in their control. And I mean, it may be difficult for people to get, but democracy, politics is about the letters of the law. And that's just it. Even, you know how difficult. INEC was the one who even pushed. Maybe only God knows. Because they pushed hard that some of these beavers things should be made as part of the law. You remember all the problem about passing 2022 electoral act. And some guys then just said, no, we're not allowing this to happen. And I could just imagine if this has been part of the law, it will have been very more difficult for all of us today. And we don't want our country to be put on a bad trajectory.
Indeed.
Yeah, we don't want that.
But now, going forward, because as I said, your area is IT especially, it's not just here. You actually live and work in the UK and here. So my reason for referencing the UK is that you're in the center, as it were, of that whole digital world. And so you must be very, very much aware of, one, what is happening, two, what the possibilities are. And so it's in that connection that I was wondering, I said, when I see Sunday, I'm going to ask, going forward, the future of Nigerian elections, what's the role of technology?
Yeah, the role of technology, in fact, what we've seen today, what we've seen happen, for those that cares to listen, is that it's going to be more tougher going forward. And why? Technology is not where it was 10, 15 years ago. And I would try, people must have been hearing about artificial intelligence. What is this nonsense, this buzzword called artificial intelligence? You know, the technology has been there before now, but it's now that you now have data that supports it. And when we say data, of course, people may not even understand what data, this data we're talking about. The data most people understand is that I go on the internet, I type something. No, technology has gone beyond that. What we call descriptive data. So someone can easily know where I slept last night because I kept my phone close to myself. Some of us sleep and even forget our phone in bed with us. So it is very easy for somebody to be able to determine where you actually slept last night. So what is happening? There are a lot of descriptive data there that now makes technology to be able to carry out the basic things human only could do before. So now, if we put that at the back of our mind, how will that influence the elections we're going to have in the future? Well, it's going to definitely influence in, number one, we've seen cases of results. So what is INEC? INEC now needs to prepare themselves and say, look, what are we going to do in the future about making sure that all results comes in as even they themselves want it? Because in their minds of mind, what they wanted to happen is that as the result is being uploaded, it should be able to be to appear straight away. That is going to happen, and there's going to be a lot of effect on that. And of course, at the background, there are lots that really happen. When we nominate candidates for elections, INEC used technology for the first time to make sure that we don't go to their offices to go and submit paper copy of Form EC9 and Form EC13 or other form. And what that does is it reduces a lot of traffic at INEC. It saves people from going on the road. That is another thing that is happening. And what we have done as a political party, of course, what we're known for, we conduct most of our elections, especially elections primary that needs to be contested. We conduct that using our mobile app. And at this point, I have to be mindful of my word, because people may say, oh, but you promised us this at this point in time. But so far, we've used this technology very well, and we've been able to demonstrate high level of transparency. There are places where we have our primaries heavily contested, like the candidates in Lagos, and at no point the person who lost complained, because it was 1,001% transparency. So sometimes, you know, when you don't have the opportunity to be able to demonstrate transparency to members of your party, it brings animosity, it brings concern. People feel like, oh, this and this. So these are the areas we expect to see political parties also using some of this technology we have been able to start with. I don't want to say we're a pioneer of it, but we've been able to start something. So these are the areas we're going to be seeing technology affecting. But most importantly, because I've said all the good ones, most importantly and the most disturbing is the fact that artificial intelligence is altering our lives.
I was going to go there, that look, artificial intelligence might have its uses and good uses. Yeah. But on social media, you also see demonstrations of diabolical uses of it. Yeah. Very, very convincing fakes. Yeah. In fact, I think they're called deep fakes. Yeah. Deep fakes that you cannot deny that that is a picture of former President Trump. Yeah. And you're looking at the lips, his lips are syncing with what is being said. So to a person who has never heard of artificial intelligence, by the time you see a picture of President Trump, for example, I'm making the ridiculous example, saying that he has a home in Yaba where he lives every time he comes to Nigeria, you're going to go around carrying it that I know that Trump has a house in Yaba. Now, there's that aspect to emerging technology. Nowadays, as you know, this AI, there are AI bots. They can, in fact, it's gotten so bad now that in America, people in universities are actually using it for papers, and the lecturers can't tell the difference.
You can't tell. I will tell the difference. I'm going to expose some of the things I've done before now. Sure. If you go on Bing, that's Microsoft, Bing.com.
Yes.
When we're preparing I was preparing the documentation and my papers for the conference we had just on Monday, last Monday, in Abuja. And what I did, I just went on Bing, and the topic we chose, and I just put it on Bing. You'll be surprised the length of article that I wrote for me. I only copied and just made amendments. That is just the truth.
And there are kids using this in schools, in universities. So, well, actually, you see, it worked for you and many millions of people who, for instance, it just gave you an article, and you might have told it to do so, but it gave you an article, and as you said, there were minor, imperfections that needed to be amended. But what does this now portend for a polity and the conduct of elections as we go ahead?
Yes, the most important stakeholder also in our elections are the electorates. And I think, which is not the INEC's responsibility solely, to make sure that the minds of the electorates are protected from information that are actually going to sway them to the wrong side. We need to be conscious. Of course, the debate is ongoing now, globally, that how AI is going to be regulated. Of course, the concern is always this, because people need to know how AI works. People need to know that the information, because what all of us are doing, we're digitizing most of the information that we have before now that they were not even digitized. So what's now happening is that, so the question is what are you going to regulate? Is it the code that is written or the content? Because what the system does is that it search all the information on the internet and bring many things together, and because computer processing speed are getting as fast as unbelievable, so it's quick. Within a flick of a finger, you can see so much information. So, but in our own country, what we need to do, first and foremost, and I'm going to make this a very simple analogy. I don't know how people will receive it, but my position is this. If you're going to have a radio station today, it does not matter. I think the simplest airwaves you can have is a community, maybe like in a university. You're still going to get a license to do that. And probably the highest number of people you can have listening to you at that point, at a point in time, may not even be up to 100,000. Now, we have people on social media who have millions of followers.
Okay.
I personally, wearing my data privacy act, I personally do not think freedom of expression involves you having freedom of platform to be able to publish, just example, deep fake information, and publish it. We've seen instances of people even publishing information to tell young people to go and kill themselves. So is that part of freedom of information? But Of course, in our country, we wait until probably it happens in Western country. Immediately in Europe, there was GDPR, the whole world steps into it. A lot of Nigeria may not even know there is now a Data Privacy Act in Nigeria. It's very there, so you have to be mindful the way you share data of people now. Now, this needs to be regulated one way or the other. But at our own point in the country, I think INEC also, and maybe they call them National Orientation Agency, they have a very big duty to inform the populace right. It's just going to make all our life very easy. Because at this point in time, there are quite a lot of ignorance out there. People do not know that if election is going on and a candidate result has not been declared and a candidate suddenly drops dead, they're going to probably start most of the election all over. It will cost a lot of pain to people, especially maybe Senate and things like that, positions of such nature. So there must be deliberate act from INEC, from national orientation agencies to inform Nigeria appropriately. Because you cannot prevent people from being able to go on Facebook or other social media and listen to some of this information, some of these fake things. In fact, some of them are not even published in Nigeria. They are published outside the shores of our country. And because we make our system or our country's internet so open, so everybody can see anything they want to see. So that is key area. At this point in time, when you look at INEC failed in this regard, in my view, because they sometimes tell us, even when we meet at political meetings, they keep saying, oh, it is the duties of political parties. And these are areas I have challenged them. Like, for heaven's sake, I'm not sure up to 10% Nigerians who are registered voters are registered members of political parties. So what are you telling us? And you don't fund political parties. It is Sunday Adenuga and his ESCOs that use the resources they could have used to cater for their family, to run our political party. Of course, mind is our choice that we want to grow organically. We don't want...
You're not complaining.
Yeah, we're not complaining. Yeah, I'm just stating. We're not complaining, because if we had one to do like others, of course, it doesn't take us anything to have taken some of this money, but some of us are built to be content with the little that we have.
I would like to assume that we also have technology experts locally in Nigeria, world standard, because often, even if they're not all based here, but there are Nigerians, and for that matter, there might be some. I don't know, Pantami, the minister at the time, he's touted as a technology expert. So the extent of the knowledge available probably will make us aware or not aware of that which we need to be doing. So that's what I wanted. I wanted you work over there and in this field. I imagine you also work in Nigeria. Yeah. I was going to ask you about some interactions, if any, you've had with your colleagues here to be able to determine how savvy, how knowledgeable we are about these matters, in order to be able to engage with them along the lines we're talking about. But just before you go, Mr. George has just called in from Lagos. Good morning to you, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to your guests, too.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, I think this is the best time for INEC to start preparing for 2027 elections in terms of technology. I don't see why between now and that time they cannot make electronic voting possible. If they start now, in 4 years' time, I know that is feasible. So this is the right time I think they should begin. But Uncle Yori, permit me to say one thing, about matters arising.
Okay.
The Nigerian public, I can see that there is a general acceptance about the removal of fuel subsidy. I want to advise the president. We want the proceeds of this subsidy removal to be tied to a project. We want to see what the money is going to be used for. When diesel was diesel and kerosene the subsidy was being removed from them, we were told so many things will be done with the money. I cannot see what we have done with that money now. Okay. What I would want to suggest to the government is this subsidy, the money we are going to get from this subsidy, Don't tell me he's going into education, health, and all that. At the end of the day, we will not see it. Tie it to a project, like, for example, pick two refineries, two of the existing refineries, and say, within so period and so period, the money that will come from subsidy, we will use it to fix these two refineries. So we can hold the government accountable if those refineries are not fixed. If you just make it hollow, that the money will be used for general conduct of governance, we won't be able to hold them to account.
Okay.
And again, I want to remind Mr. President about the central bank governor. I'm not happy that he's still there. He should sweep them away from there.
All right, Mr. George. Thank you very much for calling in. Okay, let me take a break, Sonny. Let me take a break before I come back, and then we can proceed with your interruptions. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back.
Politics is defined as getting what, where, when, and how. But in the mix, many things come to play to shape the political fortune of any country.
Honorable Minister, how you misinform the public?
From the political actors to the electorate, campaign to voting, from debates to policy decisions, big events happen to engage us in constant conversation.
That's what we're looking for. Not some people who are talking about ethnicity. No.
Who is on your mind?
Don't worry.
Join me every day on Politics Tonight, where we dissect issues that shape our political destiny. Politics Tonight, weekdays on TVC News.
Join me, Precious Amayo, as I bring you news from the epicenter, where it happens and when it happens, staying on top of every breaking story, minute by minute, right at the hour when the city gets busy and just before it sleeps. We're live from every angle with objective insight and analysis. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Okay, welcome back, and my guest is Sani Adenuga, presidential candidate of Boot Party in the 2023 election, and technology IT expert who practices both in Nigeria and in the UK. And while we were away, John in Lagos, in fact around the Agor Palace Way area, has called in. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, sir. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Yes, I just want to say...
John?
Yeah.
Carry on, please. We are live.
Yes, I am... Just want to say a very big congratulations to Mr. President for assuming office. You know, I am from Delta State, and I was born and bred in Lagos.
Okay.
So he is a man that I believe so much because I've lived all my life in Lagos State. I saw his work and all. One thing I just want to appeal to Mr. President, you know, he should be the father of all and carry everyone along, regardless of those that voted him and those that didn't voted for him and all that. And I also want to call on his attention, you know, to also plead and appeal to his conscience. I believe this government should be the government for all. And for me, as a person, I don't think the way to go is palliative, because we have seen that in previous, you know, like in the past administration, and it didn't work for the Nigerian masses. So I think it will be better for him to pick up projects that will better the masses, most importantly, the poor masses. So for me, palliative is not the way to go. And I believe so much in him because I've lived all my life in Lagos. I see his work, and you know, I just think that this whole politics thing, we should dance down the tension. I am a Christian, but I can beat my chest and tell you that this is a man that I grew up to know that he's the father of all. You know, being a Muslim, Christian, one thing I'm sure of him is a man that carries everyone along. regardless of where you're from, your state, maybe your religion, is a man that carries everyone along. So I just plead with every Nigerian that we should give him the time to work as our president. And, and INEC also sits right. I think everyone will know that this man has done a lot, in West, East, and South, every area of the country. They have affected life. I just think it's time for us to see it from the bigger picture as Nigerian.
All right.
We all work as Nigerian and make things work. So that's just my own contribution.
Thank you very much, John, calling in from Lagos. In fact, he was quite specific, Agor Palace Way in Lagos. Thank you for that call, John. And as you're also aware, Mr. President has already given assurances on all of those points that you raised regarding how he will indeed conduct himself as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But now to come back, as I said, let's look into the issue. First of all, somebody, it was Mr. George who brought up the matter, because we can do these small, segues about, he said he notices that most people seem to be, if they're not exactly jubilant and dancing in the street, on the streets for, this, what is it called now? Removal of fuel subsidy. One paper I saw, making the rounds, put the fuel price in Lagos at around 488 naira per liter. I don't know if that is official, but that's the kind of figures that we're dealing with. He said he notices, and I'll ask for your experience, that there seems to be a general acceptance that, look, it might be a bitter pill, but we've got to take this pill if we're going to make progress and move forward.
Yeah, I would say I think so. And what I've seen, the way I coined it, I call it fuel for thoughts.
Fuel for thoughts. Never mind food for thoughts.
No, yeah, because it seems everybody has come to that awareness that, look, we need to move on from this fuel. And when I released my own manifesto, one of the things I said was also that fuel subsidy needs to go, but it needs to be done gracefully. But however, President Bola Tinubu was clear in his presentations to Nigerians that, look, he is going to remove fuel subsidy. But he didn't tell us he won't do it from day one either. So if he's chosen to do it from day one, I think he probably knows better. And I need to make this clear to Nigerians that, look, fuel subsidy in the first instance is a political creation, and it can only have a political solution. Now, we have someone, for the first time, who is a very big, let's say big ogre when it comes to politics. So he's now in charge of our nation. So probably we can appeal to all. Let's give him that chance and see how the work around removal of subsidy is going to go. I usually think that if I hear correctly what most governments in the past have always said is about, they talk about subsidy transfer. That's the way I feel. And that's, I guess, what John was trying to allude to. That probably,
no, George.
George was trying to allude to that, look, there should be infrastructure being created, and we should see tangible things.
Tangible things that are going.
And I think probably that's what's been said over years, that look, we're going to make savings there, and it's going to be transferred.
But we want to see
tangible,
where those, what the savings, are savings working for us.
Yeah.
Because it's our money, it's our savings, never mind that people have been managing it for us.
Yeah.
And so that was the point that George was making, that we need to be able to see. And these are things that the Tinubu administration are very much aware of, because APC was not in, hasn't been in office forever, and in fact they have been, they were opposition. So they know the lie of the ground. They know what needs to be done. And now that we have Tinubu as the president,
I'm going to say this to you. Some of the conversation I had with people over this, I don't know how people will receive it, but when they were saying that, oh, the cabals were the one that doesn't allow the previous government to do it, and I said, look, maybe my view is this. Let's say if there were cabals, probably President Tinubu or Citizen Tinubu would have probably been one of the cabals. So for once, we now have a cabal. Let's agree as the president, and he has said he's going to do this. So we shouldn't have any problem to get it done. And that's, being sarcastic anyway. Yeah. So, but the point I'm making here is that The clear message has been made, and it just seems Nigerians are being thoughtful about the condition, the situation of this fuel subsidy. And someone talks about palliative, that it doesn't work in the past, but probably in the cities. But we have our communities all over the country where people are still very impoverished. People are still impoverished, and they really want some help in terms of being able to get around this problem of increment. Of course, it's going to affect people. Even no matter how rich you are, you're still going to feel like, oh, I used to buy this thing for 180 something, and suddenly it's become 500. It's just natural that we're going to feel that way. But there are those people who are going to feel it more.
Of course.
Farmers, they're going to feel it, to be able to carry their produce from farms to the cities, to be able to sell, and there are a lot of people.
But the whole idea, the whole notion is that, look, all of those things are true, but if we can get over that hump and it becomes part of, because it's about right pricing, you know. Fuel.
And I'm particularly happy considering that Dangote refinery is going to be functional soon, and that probably give me, I think many people, that's probably the joker that is making maybe people to feel like, okay, maybe we should accept it, knowing that we're going to produce more locally.
You know, when I said we're going to break, we'll come back, and then we'll answer this particular question. You see people coming in. This is the nature of our program. Even Chidi has come in from Kafanchan. Chidi has. Good morning, Chidi in Kafanchan.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you very much. Good morning to your guests also.
Good morning, Chidi.
Yes, my take, I really want to congratulate President Tinubu. I also want to congratulate Nigerians for the peaceful inauguration that we expected on that very day. Now, back to what you are discussing in the studios.
Okay.
Concerning the very few steps the president has so far taken, they are indeed taking the bulls by the horns. It will be my prayers and wish that the president will continue in this regard. Yes, Nigerians must feel the impact of the removal of the fuel subsidy. But Nigerians at the same time will be very happy if at the end of the day, the proceeds from these savings will be utilized in such a way that it will bring infrastructure and improve on our economy. That is one. Then the other time, I want to commend the inauguration of Dangote's refinery in Lagos. So I equally want to implore the government under Tinubu now to make it a competitive venture so that whomsoever a Nigerian that has the capacity to float an indigenous refinery should go ahead and do that. I want to still believe that if the oil business will become competitive, it will go a long way in streamlining the price and the affordability of the product. Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and we say a big amen to that. Chidi in Kafanchan, a regular caller. Now, to come back to technology, would you like to, I'd said let's come back before we continue. You remember where we left off?
Yes, talking about the impacts, especially the negative sides of artificial intelligence affecting our lives.
And how people can use it dubiously. I mean, when people didn't see any other road again to be dubious, they just carried the ballot box and began to run with it. As crude as that. So if AI is now here, can you blame people for it being a bit apprehensive?
No, I won't blame people for totally being apprehensive. One of the suggestions we have put across, for instance, to INEC is that we still do not understand why our election has to be conducted in a day. Because, and I've probably said that probably INEC is using election apathy as a control. And how do I mean? If you look at it, that technology is there. You're using technology now, even if you are naive before as an institution, but you have now gone into it. it is easy to know that Sunday Adenuga has voted yesterday. He can't vote again today. Because the clear thing is that our environment as a nation in some states of the country, it's extremely difficult to be able to, for instance, take sensitive material from Port Harcourt to Ndoni, and you expect them to start voting by 8 o'clock. How are you going to do that? It's extremely tough in some areas of the country. Now, technology can be used to do this, and AI can also be deployed. Of course, we also need to say this. It is easier said than done. Mm-hmm. It is extremely expensive. You know, technology is something global, okay? It's not just Nigeria. So nobody cares in India if you outsource a service to them, or in America that you are Nigerian, that you want to use the service. Well, if he's charging everybody all over the world $5,000, he's going to charge you $5,000. So it's not his headache. And I think he also made mention about local expertise. Yeah, there are local expertise here. There are young people who could train very well. But unfortunately, I'm going to criticize President Buhari's government in a way that you hear the Japa syndrome. And the way I look at it is this. You know, as a leader, and I hope that's when we say renewed hope, you know, Napoleon the Great described a leader as a dealer in hope. I don't think that happened in President Buhari's government for that number of years. That's why you see a lot of people, they just want to leave because they feel like it seems the situation is hopeless. And I've even posted at a time, I said, well, I hope in 4 years, the renewed hope will become an hope in sight for people so that people can come back home and feel relief. Okay. Now, INEC...
Okay, I beg your pardon, because I have Jubril, he's waiting in Sapele to join the program. Oh, Jubril, apologies. I could hear when we lost that. Jubril had called in from Sapele, and the call just dropped as I was going to him. So sorry about that, Jubril.
So when you talk about artificial intelligence, the main point is this. There is that danger there. As good as technology, there was those rumors that were flying around then that, oh, probably INEC had that they want to hack them. Well, someone doesn't have to sit deliberately to attempt to hack you. We monitor, both party monitors regularly. There are days we have persistent attack on our server. And these are also done by robots. They are not done. Yes, they are not done by...
The number of attacks reported by INEC, you know, on its server and all of that.
It's not impossible because for us, there are days we have over 10,000 attempts. It's not like they were successful, but there are days that we have over 10,000, you know. So it's usually about traffics going all over the world. You can imagine INEC start uploading data and there are traffic, so there could be some people out there. I'm not excusing that there are no people probably sat somewhere in Ukraine or Russia making an attempt to hack our server.
That's what I'm saying. The world we find ourselves
that's just the way it is.
Let me not lose Mukhtar. Mukhtar has called in from Kano, I believe. Good morning, Mukhtar.
Yes. Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, I'm just trying to contribute my own quota towards the removal of fuel subsidy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, this fuel subsidy, you see, Mr. President should have studied this critical analysis on how much is being saved and how much will be gained. Because abrupt or taking a decision, hard decision like this, will jeopardize the life of the poor man. When you are buying a petrol of 550, everything, the prices of all commodities will be high. The value of the naira will be reduced. It will depreciate. And the prices will be high. The common man income has not been increased, especially the pensioners. So what do you expect? The level of education, the health sector, the roads and everything. It is good if those money that are being saved could be utilized in that sector. But the monster corruption is there going around the politicians. They will not allow it to work. And the poor man's life will be jeopardized. So if care is not being taken, we may be facing economic dooms in Nigeria because the poor man will be suffering. The man in the rural area will definitely suffer because we have to consider so many factors before taking this decision. Are we really ready to do it as honest as possible? Are we really going to judiciously use the subsidy money to to put it into the imperial facilities of Nigeria? Are we really ready to fight the corruption? Are the justice system ready to jail those corrupt people? All these considerations must be taken. Otherwise, it is going to be, another problem to the poor man. Who elected them into power? It's not the elite. It's not the elite that matters. But look at the downtrodden people. Look at the people on the street. Look at the people that don't own anything, and they have to go out daily looking for something. How can they afford their family? How can they afford the medication? How can they afford their education? How can they afford the security? We knew very well if the money can be judicially utilized, it would have been better. But will it not? This is the question, Mr. Yorik. You can answer me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in, Mukhtar from Kano. These questions are there and they're going to be ongoing. In fact, he spoke about the devaluation of the Naira. And those on social media, no, it's not even social media. One newspaper actually put it out that the Naira has been devalued. This followed, there is a meeting between the governor of Central Bank, among others, with President Tinubu. And it was put out. Well, the CBN has been very quick to say that, quote, CBN has not devalued the Naira, and it had very sharp words for the newspaper, and it said that in a statement signed by Issa Abdulmumin, Issa Abdulmumin, PhD, Acting Director of Corporate Communications, said that it was a falsehood, and for the avoidance of doubt, the exchange rate at the investors and exporters window traded this morning, June 1st, at 465 Nairas to the dollar, and that this has been stable around the, has been the stable rate for a while. So this, no doubt, we have to be very careful of the internet. And but the points that, were raised by Mukhtar in Kano, they're all very, very important questions, especially in the light of nowadays, depends on where you are, 1,000 Naira might not get you 2 liters of fuel. Well, in Lagos here, it'll just get you 2 liters of fuel at 488, if indeed that is the figure that it is going to be at. So there's so much, work that has to be done around the consequences of this, especially, as Mukhtar was saying, not for the big men in society that have 11 cars parked, that maybe have a private airplane. Those are not the people, but the ordinary people. Those are the
I think government needs to...
Yes. In closing, because...
Yeah, I don't want to speak for... I'm not participating in the government, at least let me put it that way. But the point here is this. What Mukhtar said is true. There are a lot of Nigerians who are really going to be very, very much affected. But that said, one thing also, I said before, some of the things I do hear when government say some of these things about subsidy. One thing I saw also sometimes here is I think government seems to have lost control about how they can actually control subsidy itself. And that's why they feel like probably it should be taken off. But also we need to know that there are a lot of people who are going to be seriously affected. Now the question now is...
We don't have the time, but we run out of time.
Yeah, the question now is that there should be something needs to be done. I don't know how they're going to work out the palliative or whatever is going to be worked out, but I strongly think something needs to be done to help it.
And also, technology is a double-edged sword, but there's no way we can escape the use of technology. It can only get better as we go along.
Yeah, it can only get better, and we can make our society to be more better for it. We have a lot of younger population whose energy are not being tapped very well. These young people could be put into technology silos and develop our own, even AI, if possible. We can do that.
We're going to have to leave it there, but I want to thank you very much, Sani. Mr. Sani Adenuga, presidential candidate of Boot Party in the 2023 election and IT expert. He's been our guest on the program this morning. Okay, so that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am YORI FOLARIN. Bye-bye for now.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV.
Do you spend the night trying to get comfortable? Your knees rub bone on bone, your back and hips ache. You wake up in pain? Not anymore. ShopX TV is proud to introduce the Contour Legacy Pillow. The patented ergonomic